It was late at night. The road stretched endlessly with nothing but silence surrounding the car. For friends, David, Sarah, Mike, and Emma were on a road trip, laughing and talking to pass the time. The mood was light until the weather suddenly shifted. Their phone signals kept dropping, and the GPS froze before shutting down completely. At first, they thought it was just a technical glitch, but as they drove further, the atmosphere grew heavier, almost suffocating. A thick mist rolled in between the trees, and the road twisted into a direction that didn't even exist on the map. After a while, they arrived at the entrance of a small town. The place appeared completely abandoned. Streets were empty, shops locked tight, and yet, oddly, faint lights glowed from the windows of some houses. The friends exchanged nervous glances. "Maybe people are just asleep," Sarah whispered, though her voice lacked confidence. But the air was too still, too unnatural, like the town itself was holding its breath. Then Emma froze, her face pale. "Did you guys hear that?" Everyone stopped talking. A faint whisper echoed, carried on the wind, soft but chilling. The voice seemed to be calling their names, one by one, as if someone invisible stood right beside them. They looked around, but the streets remained empty. For a moment, fear gripped them all. Their laughter was gone, replaced with pounding hearts. Mike, trying to lighten the mood, forced a laugh. "It's just the wind. You guys are being paranoid." But deep down, even he couldn't shake off the cold dread settling in his chest. What they believed to be just an ordinary, empty town was something else entirely. The whisper that called their names wasn't just sound carried by the wind. It was the first warning of the nightmare that was about to unfold. The group wandered deeper into the town, searching for any sign of life. Their footsteps echoed unnaturally against the cracked pavement, as if the streets were listening. At the corner of the main road, they stumbled upon an old diner. Its neon sign flickered weakly, buzzing like an insect. The door creaked when David pushed it open, releasing a cloud of dust and the musty scent of decay. Inside, the diner looked as though it had been frozen in time. Half-filled coffee cups sat on tables, their contents long dried into dark stains. Plates with mold-covered food rested untouched, as if the people eating had simply vanished mid-bite. Emma brushed her hand across a dusty counter and uncovered a pile of newspapers, their pages yellowed with age. Sarah picked one up, reading the headline aloud. "Town vanishes overnight. No survivors found." The paper was dated 1962. Dozens of articles followed, each one stranger than the last. Some mentioned mass hysteria, others talked of people dissolving into thin air. But one recurring detail sent a chill through all of them. The reports always mentioned voices and shadows appearing before the townsfolk disappeared. Mike nervously flipped through another article and muttered, "So, nobody ever left this place." David's expression hardened. "It means they're still here somewhere." The silence that followed was suffocating. The friends glanced at the empty booths and shattered jukebox, imagining invisible eyes watching them. Outside, the mist pressed against the diner windows, making it harder to see the streets. For the first time, the group realized the truth. This wasn't just an abandoned town. It was a graveyard, not of bodies, but of souls. And those souls hadn't been at rest for over 60 years. The group left the diner unsettled, each of them shaken by the chilling headlines they had just read. As they stepped back onto the empty street, the mist seemed heavier, curling around their feet like pale hands. The town felt alive, watching, waiting. Emma was the first to notice it. She froze in place, pointing toward a second-story window across the street. Behind the cracked glass, a figure stood motionless, its face obscured in shadow. The moment they looked directly at it, the figure slowly stepped back into darkness and vanished. "Did you see that?" Emma whispered, her voice trembling. David tried to stay calm, but his jaw tightened. It was probably just our imagination. Yet even he didn't believe his own words. As they moved forward, more strange glimpses appeared. In the reflection of a store window, Sarah caught sight of someone standing right behind her, tall, faceless, leaning close as though to whisper. She spun around, heart pounding, but no one was there. Only her friends, equally terrified. Mike, growing frustrated, pulled out his camera. "I'll prove we're just spooking ourselves." He pointed the lens toward the darkened street and began recording. When he glanced at the playback, his stomach dropped. The video showed all four of them walking, But in the reflection of a car window, only 3 figures appeared. His own reflection was missing. He swallowed hard and showed the others. Fear tightened around them like chains. "This isn't possible," he muttered. The sense of being watched became unbearable. The whispers returned, louder this time, overlapping voices calling their names in tones that were almost human, but not quite. The shadows weren't just watching anymore. They were closing in. The friends realized with growing horror they were no longer alone in this town. Something unseen had marked them. The silence of the town was unbearable now, broken only by the faint crunch of their footsteps on cracked pavement. Every shadow seemed to stretch unnaturally, following them like hunters. The group walked close together, too afraid to separate, their nerves fraying with each passing second. Then, without warning, Emma let out a piercing scream. The others spun around. Mike was gone. One moment he had been walking right beside them. The next he had simply vanished. "Mike!" David shouted, his voice echoing down the empty street. Sarah fumbled with her flashlight, sweeping the beam frantically across the road. For a moment, there was nothing but mist. Then, near the curb, they saw it. Mike's phone lying on the ground, its screen still glowing, camera recording. David picked it up with trembling hands. On the screen was a shaky video. Mike's face twisted in panic as he turned towards something unseen. The camera jerked violently as he was dragged backward into the darkness, his voice breaking into terrified screams. His body blurred, like shadows themselves were swallowing him. Then the video ended in static. Sarah backed away, tears welling in her eyes. "No, this isn't real. It can't be real." Emma clutched her arms, whispering, "Something took him, right in front of us." The whispers returned, louder now, overlapping voices that seemed to mock their fear. From every direction came faint echoes of Mike's scream, replaying again and again, as if the town itself was feeding on his terror. David clenched his fists, trying to keep control, but his face was pale. "We have to move. If we stay, we're next." But deep down, they all understood the truth. Mike hadn't just disappeared. He had been claimed, and whatever took him was still out there, waiting for its next victim. Shaken and terrified, the 3 remaining friends stumbled into an alley, desperate for answers, desperate for any sign of life. The fog thickened, wrapping around them like a living thing. Just when panic threatened to overwhelm them, a voice rasped from the shadows. "Lost, aren't you?" They turned sharply and saw an old man sitting on the steps of a boarded-up house. His clothes were worn and tattered, his skin weathered like cracked leather. A faded military badge was pinned to his coat. His eyes, hollow and haunted, stared at them with a mixture of pity and warning. "Please, you have to help us," Sarah pleaded. "Our friend, something took him." The old man shook his head slowly. "You're too late. This place doesn't let anyone leave. Not anymore." He motioned for them to sit, his voice carrying the weight of decades. Then he told them the truth. Long ago, the townsfolk made a pact with something ancient, something that promised protection and prosperity. At first, life flourished. Crops never failed, businesses thrived, and no disaster touched the town. But soon the entity demanded more: sacrifices, obedience, silence. Those who resisted vanished, consumed by shadows. Eventually, the entire town was swallowed by the bargain. They thought they could control it, the man muttered bitterly. But the town itself became the offering. Every soul here was bound. And now, every outsider who steps inside is trapped in the same curse. Emma's voice shook. "You mean we can't escape?" His hollow laugh echoed eerily. "Escape? No. This place is a maze with no exit. You walk in circles until the town takes what it wants. And it always takes." The friends felt the truth sink into their bones. They weren't just lost. They had walked into a prison woven from shadows and whispers, a curse written into the very foundations of the hollow town. The 3 remaining friends didn't want to believe the old man's words. Fear pushed them into denial. "We're leaving," David insisted, his voice trembling but determined. "I don't care what stories he tells. We can still get out." They ran back to their car, the only familiar thing left in this suffocating town. The doors slammed shut, the engine roared to life, and with headlights cutting through the fog, they sped down the main road. Relief started to wash over them, until the road stretched endlessly without change. After what felt like half an hour of driving, Emma frowned, pointing ahead. Her voice cracked. That, that looks like the same gas station we passed earlier. Sure enough, there it was. The same rusted pumps, the same flickering light above the station door. Sarah's hands shook. No, no, we didn't turn back. We kept going straight. This isn't possible. They tried again, turning in different directions. Left, right, even reversing through side roads. But every attempt ended the same. They always came back to the gas station. The fuel gauge never moved, no matter how long the engine ran. And when David checked his watch, the time made his stomach twist. 3:33 a.m. Emma checked her phone. 3:33 a.m. Sarah looked at her digital camera. 3:33 a.m. Every clock, every device was frozen at the exact same time. The town wasn't letting them leave. Panic consumed Sarah. We're stuck in some kind of loop. It's a trap, like the place itself is alive. Outside the windshield, the fog pressed closer, swallowing the road ahead. Through the mist, faint shapes flickered, silhouettes walking just beyond the light of the headlights. Always watching, always waiting. David gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. This isn't real. It can't be real. But deep down he knew. They weren't driving in circles. The town was leading them back, over and over, like a predator playing with its prey. By now, exhaustion had set in. Their bodies trembled, their voices were broken, and their minds teetered on the edge of collapse. Hours, or what felt like hours, had passed, but every clock still read the same. 3:33 a.m. The endless loops had drained their hope. David, Sarah, and Emma sat in the car, headlights cutting through the suffocating fog, listening to the faint echoes of whispers that never stopped. Then something changed. The fog thinned slightly, and the first pale light of dawn stretched across the horizon. The town looked different now. The streets were emptier, the buildings faded like old photographs. The whispers, once constant, grew quiet, as though the entire town was holding its breath. Emma leaned forward, whispering, maybe it's over. But relief never came. David noticed the shadows first, dark figures standing at every street corner, silent and still, staring at the car. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Their faces were blurred, their bodies trembling like static. As the sun rose higher, the figures dissolved, one by one, like smoke scattered by the light. Soon, the entire town began to fade with them. And then, it was gone. The three friends blinked, suddenly parked on an empty country road. No fog, no buildings, no sign of the hollow town at all. For a brief moment, hope surged in their chests. Had they survived? Had they escaped? David reached for the car's radio, his hands shaking. The static cleared, and a voice whispered through the speakers. It was Mike's voice. "We will return." The message repeated, distorted and haunting, until the radio shorted out. Sarah screamed, Emma covered her ears, and David froze in terror. The hollow town had vanished, but its curse hadn't. And somewhere, in the silence of the morning air, a whisper lingered, promising that this was not the end.